John Anderson. John Anderson is an American country singer with a successful career that has lasted more than 40 years. Starting in 1977 with the release of his first single, I've Got a Feeling, Anderson has charted more than 40 singles on the Billboard country music charts, including 5 number 1s: Wild and Blue, Swinging Black Sheep, Straight, Tequila Night, and Money in the Bank. He has also recorded 22 studio albums on several labels. His latest album, Years, was released on April 10, 2020 on the Easy Eye sound label and was produced by Nashville veteran producer David Ferguson and Dan Auerbach of the Black Keys. Raised in Apopka, Florida, Anderson's first musical influences were not country artists but rock and roll musicians such as Jimi Hendrix and the Rolling Stones. He played in a rock band until the age of 15 when he discovered the music of George Jones and Merle Haggard and turned to country music. Henderson moved to Nashville, Tennessee in 1971, arriving unannounced at his sister's home and took on odd jobs during the day, including one as a roofer at the Grand Ole Opry House while playing in clubs during the evenings. He died on 7th August. May his soul rest in peace. Hall. Grayson Hall was an American television, film, and stage actress. She was widely regarded for her avant-garde theatrical performance from the 1960s to the 1980s. Hall was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress and a Golden Globe Award for the John Huston film The Night of the Iguana. Hall played multiple prominent roles on the gothic soaps opera Dark Shadows and appeared on One Life to Live. In 2006, a biography titled Grayson Hall, A Hard Act to Follow was released. Hall was born Shirley Grossman in Philadelphia in 1922, the only child of Eleanor and Joseph Grossman. Her father was from Latvia and her mother, who had acted in the Yiddish theater, was from South Africa. Both were from Jewish immigrant families. Hall enjoyed an active stage career in New York City. Her theater credits include roles in off-Broadway productions of influential avant-garde plays, including Six Characters in Search of an Author by Luigi Pirandello. She also appeared as a Madame Irma in the first New York production of The Balcony by Jean Genet for more than a year at the Circle the Square Theatre downtown in Greenwich Village. 6 month battle with lung cancer, Hall died at New York Hospital in Manhattan in 1985 at the age of 62. A simple marker near her Rhinebeck, New York home reads Grayson Hall, August 7, 1985. Phillips. Astra Phillips was an American singer best known for her R&B vocals. She rose to prominence in 1950s, scoring several major and R&B hits including Double Crossing Blues and Miss Rotten Blues under the moniker Little Esther. In the 1960s, she achieved chart success with the country song Release Me and recorded in the pop, jazz, blues, and soul genres. Phillips received a Grammy nomination for her single Home is Where the Hatred Is in 1973, and her disco recording of What a Difference a Day Makes was a major hit in 1975. She died from liver and kidney failure due to long-term drug abuse in 1984. Phillips was born Esther May Jones in Galveston, Texas, US. Her parents divorced during her adolescence, and she divided her time between her father in Houston and her mother in the Watts section of Los Angeles. She was brought up singing in church and was reluctant to enter a talent contest at a local blues club, but her sister insisted. A mature singer, at the age of 14, she won the amateur talent contest in 1949 at the Barrel House Club, owned by Johnny Otis. Otis was so impressed that he recruited her for Modern Records and added her to his traveling revenue. The California Rhythm and Blues Caravan, billed as Little Esther. She later took the surname Phillips as a stage name, reportedly inspired by a sign at a gas station. She died on 7th August. May her soul rest in peace. Joey Lansing. Joey Lansing was an American model, film and television actress, and nightclub singer. She noted for her pin-up photos and roles in B-movies, as well as a prominent role in the famous opening tracking shot in Orson Welles' 1958 crime drama Touch of Evil. Lansing was often cast in roles similar to those played by her contemporaries Jane Mansfield and Mamie Van Doren. She frequently was clad in skimpy costumes and bikinis that accentuated her figure, but she never posed nude. Publicity reports claim that Lansing practiced yoga for relaxation and was a devout Mormon. Lansing was born at Salt Lake Regional Medical Center in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1929. to Jack Glenn Brown, a shoe salesman and orchestra musician, and Virginia Grace Brown, a housewife. She later known by her stepfather's surnames, that is, Bassensdorf and Loveland. In 1940, her family moved to Los Angeles, where her half-siblings and or step-siblings were born. She died on 7th August. May her soul rest in peace. Stan Mikita. Stan Mikita was a Solveig-born Canadian ice hockey player for the Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League, generally regarded as the best center of 1960s. In 2017, he was named one of the 100 greatest NHL players. In 1961, he became the first Solveig-born player to win the Stanley Cup. Mikita was born as Stanislav Goth in Sokolets, Slovak Republic. During the brief period it came into existence as a client state of Nazi Germany. He was raised in a small farming community until 1948 when he moved to St. Catharines, Ontario. He was adopted by his uncle and aunt, Hannah and Joe Mikita, who had emigrated from Slovakia to Canada 20 years earlier and were childless. They came to Slovakia to visit the Goth family before Christmas in 1948 and took the 8-year-old Stan with them when they went back to Canada. His parents believed that there was a brighter future for him in Canada than in the communist Czechoslovakia, whose borders had been reinstated at the end of World War II. His aunt and uncle also gave him their surname, and he anglicized his first name to Stanley. Stan considered himself Slovak and mentioned in interviews how proud he was of his Slovak origin. May 24, 2011, Mikita was diagnosed with oral cancer and began external beam radiation therapy. On January 30, 2015, the Chicago Tribune released this statement from his wife. Stan has been diagnosed with suspected Lewy body dementia, a progressive disease, and was under the care of compassionate and understanding caregivers. In June 2015, it was stated that Mikita had no memory of his former life and was being cared by his wife Jill. Mikita died at the age of 78 on August 7, 2018. He was survived by his wife, 4 children, and 9 grandchildren. Mikita's ashes are interred at Brownswood Cemetery in Oak Brook, Illinois. On September 14, 2019, it was reported by the Boston University CTE Center that upon performing a posthumous study of Mikita's brain, it was found that he suffered from stage 3 chronic traumatic encephalopathy or CTE at the time of his death. This marks Mikita as the first Hall of Famer to ever have been diagnosed with the disease. Markie Post. Markie Post was an American actress. Her best known roles include bail bondswoman Terry Michaels in The Fall Guy on ABC from 1982 to 1985, public defender Christine Sullivan on the NBC sitcom Night Court from 1985 to 1992, Georgie Annie Lathy Hartman on the CBS sitcom Hearts Afire from 1992 to 1995, and Barbara Bunny Fletcher, the mother of Detective Aaron Lindsay on the NBC drama series Chicago PD from 2014 to 2017. Markie Post's earlier life is Post was born in Palo Alto, California on November 4, 1950. Her father, Richard F. Post, worked as a physicist. Her mother, Marilee Post, was a poet. The second of the couple's 3 children, she and her 2 siblings were raised in the Stanford and Walnut Creek. She attended Les Lomas High School, where she was a cheerleader. Post then attended Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, and briefly attended Pomona College in California before returning to Lewis and Clark to earn her Bachelor of Arts degree. Post's career is prior to acting. Post worked on several game shows. She began her career with the production crew of the Tom Kennedy version of Split Second. She also served as associate producer of CBC's Double Dare and as a card dealer on NBC's Card Sharks. Later, after achieving fame as an actress, she played various game shows as a celebrity guest, including the match game Hollywood Squares Are, Super Password, the $25,000 Pyramid, and the $100,000 Pyramid. She helped the contestant win the $100,000 grand prize in November 1987 tournament episode of the $100,000 Pyramid. Post early acting credits, including a 1979 episode of Barnaby Jones and the pilot episode of Simon and Simon, details at 11 in 1981, episode 1 of season 2 of The Greatest American Hero, 2 episodes of The A-Team as 2 different characters in the 1983 episode, The Only Church in Town in the 1984 episode Hot Styles and The Love Boat. She appeared in the science fiction series Buck Rogers in the 25th Century and as Diane Chambers' best friend in the sitcom Cheers, before eventually becoming a regular on ABC action drama The Fall Guy. Post was married first to Stephen Knox, whom she met at Lewis and Clark College. She later married actor and writer Michael A. Ross, with whom she had 2 daughters. Post died at her home in Los Angeles on 7 August 2023. Post died at her home in Los Angeles on August 7, 2021, aged 70, after battling cancer for almost 4 years. She died on 7th August. May her soul rest in peace. Stan Clausen. Brian Clausen was an American professional auto racing driver, best known for his achievements in dirt track, open-wheel racing such as USAC, Silver Crown, Midget, and sprint cars. Clausen was increasingly seen competing with the World of Outlaws sprint cars in his last couple of years. Clausen also competed in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, Indy Lights, and IndyCar Series, and was a development driver for Chip Ganassi Racing. In 2016, Clausen attempted to compete in 200 races, including the Indianapolis 500, World of Outlaws sprint cars, wingless sprint cars, and midget cars. On August 6, 2016, Clausen was involved in a midget car crash at Belleville High Banks Speedway in Belleville, Kansas, and died the following night. In 2018, Clausen was elected into the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. The facility also built the Brian Clausen Tower with fan donations overlooking Turn 2 at the famed Knoxville Raceway. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway's new infield dirt track conducts a 39-lap USAC midget race in his memory, starting in 2018. 2016, Clausen was competing in the Belleville Nationals midget race, his 116th race of the year, when he was involved in an accident in which he flipped his car after making contact with a left car and was hit by another. He was taken to Bryan Medical Center West and was in critical condition upon arrival. Clausen died at the hospital the following evening. Tony Stewart remarked, "It sucks when it's anybody in racing. It's hard when you lose them, but it's even worse when they're somebody as close to you as Brian was. I feel for Brian's parents and his sister, and I hope to be able to see them soon, but just thinking about them more than anything right now." He died on 7th August. Clausen attended Noblesville High School in Noblesville, Indiana. He is survived by his parents Tim and Deanna Clausen and sister Taylor. He left behind his fiancée, Lauren Stewart, and their dogs, Chevy and Stewart. Judith Christ. Judith Christ was an American film critic and academic. She appeared regularly on The Today Show from 1964 to 1973 and was among the first full-time female critics for a major American newspaper, in her case, the New York Herald Tribune. She was a founding film critic at New York Magazine and became known to most Americans as a critic at the weekly magazine TV Guide and at the morning TV show Today. Christ was born Judith Killen in the Bronx, New York City, the daughter of the Helen librarian and Solomon Klein, a manufacturing jeweler. She attended Morris High School in the Bronx and received a Bachelor of Arts degree from Hunter College and a Master of Science degree from the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism. Judith was married to William B. Christ from 1947 until his death in 1993. She was the mother of Stephen Christ, a thoroughbred handicapper and publisher of the Daily Racing Forum. She died at her home in Manhattan on August 7, 2012 at the age 90. May her soul rest in peace. Louis Suggs. Louis Suggs was an American professional golfer, one of the founders of the LPGA Tour and thus modern ladies golf. Born in Atlanta, Suggs had a very successful amateur career, beginning as a teenager. She won the Georgia State Amateur in 1940 at age 16 and again in 1942, was a Southern Amateur champion in 1941 and 1947, and won the North and South Women's Amateur 3 times. She won the 1946 and 1947 Women's Western Amateur and the 1946 and 1947 Women's Western Open, which was designated as a major championship when the LPGA was founded. She also won the 1946 Title Holders Championship, which was also subsequently designated as a women's major. She won the 1947 US Women Amateur and the next year won the British Ladies Amateur. She finished her amateur career representing the United States on the 1948 Curtis Cup team. After a successful amateur career, she turned professional in 1948 and went on to win 58 additional professional tournaments with a total of 11 majors. Her prowess on the golf course is reflected in the fact that from 1950 to 1960 she was only once out of the top three in the season-ending money list. Sachs' victory in the 1957 LPGA Championship made her the first LPGA player to complete a career Grand Slam. She died on 7th August. May her soul rest in peace. Margaret Pellegrini. Margaret Pellegrini was an American actress, vaudeville performer, and dancer best known for playing one of the Munchkins from the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz. Until her death in 2013, she was one of the three surviving Munchkins, the other two being Jerry Marin and Ruth Robinson Duquesne. Pellegrini was born Margaret Williams in Alabama. When she was helping a relative in a potato chip booth at the Tennessee State Fair, a group of little people came by and asked if she wanted to join the show. Henry Kramer's Midgets. At that time, I didn't think I was a midget, says Pellegrini. In the film, Pellegrini played a sleepy-head flower pot in Munchkin Villager. After the film, she married Willie Pellegrini and had two children. Through the years, Pellegrini frequently appeared at surviving Munchkins of Oz festivities. Pellegrini died on August 7, 2013 in Glendale, Arizona due to complications from a stroke she had 2 days earlier. She outlived every major cast member of The Wizard of Oz. She was 89. Her burial is at Holy Cross Cemetery in Avondale, Arizona. May her soul rest in peace. Seeger. Mike Seeger was an American folk musician and folklorist. He was a distinctive singer and an accomplished musician who played auto harp, banjo, fiddle, dulcimer, guitar, mouth harp, mandolin, dobro, jaw harp, and panpipes. Seeger, a half-brother of Peter Seeger, produced more than 30 documentary recordings and performed on more than 40 other recordings. He desired to make known the caretakers of the culture that inspired and taught him. Seeger was born in New York and grew up in Maryland and Washington, D.C. His father, Charles Louis Seeger, Jr., was a composer and pioneering ethnomusicologist investigating both American folk and non-Western music. His mother, Ruth Crawford Seeger, was a composer. His eldest half-brother, Charles Seeger III, was a radio astronomer, and his next older half-brother, John Seeger, taught for years at the Dalton School in Manhattan. At about the age of 20, Mike Seeger began collecting songs by traditional music on a tape recorder. Folk musicians such as Lead Belly, Woody Guthrie, John Jacob Niles, and others were frequent guests in the Seeger home. He died on 7th August. May his soul rest in peace. Bernie Brillstein. Bernie Brillstein was an American film and television producer, executive producer, and talent agent. He began his career in the 1950s at the William Morris Agency before founding his own company in 1969 and later joining forces with Brad Grey to helm Brillstein Grey Entertainment, one of the most important and influential Hollywood talent management and production companies. He is remembered for producing successful TV programs like Hee Haw, The Muppet Show, and The Sopranos, and hit films including The Blues Brothers, Ghostbusters, and Happy Gilmore. Bernie Brillstein was born to a Jewish family in Manhattan to Mo Brillstein and Matilda Tilly Brillstein, who all shared the Manhattan home of his uncle, the vaudeville and radio performer Jack Pearl. Brillstein's father, a millionaire, was the guiding force behind the building of the Millenary Center Synagogue, a synagogue located in the Garment District in Manhattan. In 1967, Brillstein married Laura Smith. In 1975, he married Deborah Ellen Koshakoff. In 1998, Brillstein married Carrie Winston Brillstein, a marriage that lasted until his 2008 death. May his soul rest in peace. Peter Jennings. Peter Jennings was a Canadian-American television journalist best known for serving as the sole anchor of ABC World News Tonight from 1983 until his death from lung cancer in 2005. Despite dropping out of high school, Jennings transformed himself into one of the Americans' television's most prominent journalists, Elizabeth Jennings. Jennings started his career early, hosting a Canadian radio show at age 9. He began his professional career with JCHOF TV in Ottawa. During his early years, anchoring the local newscast and hosting the teen dance show Saturday Date on Saturdays. In 1965, ABC News tapped him to anchor its flagship evening news program. Critics and others in the television news business attacked his inexperience, making his job difficult. He became a foreign correspondent in 1968, reporting from the Middle East. Jennings was born on July 29, 1938, in Toronto, Ontario. He and his younger sister Sarah were children of Elizabeth and Charles Jennings, a prominent radio broadcaster for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Jennings started his broadcasting career at the age of 9, hosting Peter's People, a half-hour Saturday morning radio show for kids. His father was on a business trip to the Middle East when he show debuted. Upon returning, Charles Jennings, who harbored a deep dislike of nepotism, was outraged to learn that the network had put his son on the air. Although Jennings dreamed of following in his father's footsteps in broadcasting, his first job was as a bank teller for the Royal Bank of Canada. He had hoped that the company would assign him to its Havana branch. Instead, it relocated him to the small town of Prescott, Ontario, before transferring him to its nearby Brockville branch. Jennings won numerous honors throughout his career, including 16 Emmys and 2 George Foster Peabody Awards. His work on World News Tonight and Peter Jennings reporting consistently won Overseas Press Club and DuPont Columbia Awards. He died on 7th August. Brian James was an American character actor. He portrayed Leon Kowalski in Blade Runner and appeared in Southern Comfort, 48 Hours, Another 48 Hours, Silverado, Tango and Cash, Red Heat, The Player, and The Fifth Element. James was frequently cast as an antagonist, appearing more frequently in lower-budget horror and action films and TV shows throughout the 1980s and 1990s. James appeared in more than 100 films before he died of a heart attack at the age of 54. James was born in Redlands, California. He spent his early years in Beaumont, California, where his parents owned and operated a theater. James said, "My story is like Cinema Paradiso. Every night in my life, since I was 2 years old, I ran movies." After graduating from high school in 1964, James attended San Diego State University as a theater arts major. Migrating to New York, James immersed himself in the theater scene, taking on bit roles here and there. In 1975, James landed a small role in the made-for-television film The Kansas City Massacre, playing John Dillinger gang member Homer Van Meter. Higher profile roles followed in 1976 with his casting in Nickelodeon and Harry and Walter Go to New York. James also appeared in the television miniseries Roots and popular 1970s shows such as Gunsmoke, The Incredible Hulk, Mork and Mindy, Chico and the Man Chips. Died in 1999, 7th August, after suffering a heart attack at his home in Malabo, California. He appeared in 5 feature films that were released posthumously. Robert Hutton was an American actor. Robert Bruce Winnie was born in Kingston, New York, and he grew up in Ulster County, New York. He was the son of a hardware merchant and a cousin of the Woolworth heiress Barbara Hutton. He attended Blair Academy, a small boarding school in Blairstown, New Jersey. Before he ventured into films, Hutton acted as the Woodstock Playhouse in Woodstock, New York for 2 seasons. His film debut as Robert Hutton came in Destination Tokyo. Hutton had a daughter and a son. He spent his last days in a nursing care facility after breaking his back in a home accident. He is interred in Calvary Cemetery in Queens, New York. May his soul rest in peace.